Hey, I want to change the question a little bit because you guys are doing something we don't see a lot of teams do is start season 2 games on the road.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
That's tough, man. I think it is going to help this year because of the experience that they had. And so I think it's tough. I'd much rather play at least one game at home or a neutral site or something like that. But for this year and the way TD Houston fans are, I probably much rather than play on the road because the fans are so fair weather. They rarely come. They come to see other teams. That's just a fact from since I've been in Houston since 2016. And so I like it. I think it's going to bring the best out of Houston to challenge them even more back against the wall. And I think I like it. I like them being on the road.
Yeah, and that was something that, honestly, it's kind of new because I think last year Houston I can't remember. I think they might have played the full month of September where they didn't have to leave Houston because they played you guys at NRG. Then they played Rice at Rice, and then they had Grambling for the opener. So, I mean, it's something new. And like Da'Yon said, I think it's something that really, with the team they have, they can kind of get away with it because they are bringing back a veteran, experienced team where they're really motivated to get back to the American Athletic Conference Championship and did what they weren't able to do last season. So, but yeah, I can imagine if the roles were reversed and Houston was in a position kind of where you guys are with a new coach and kind of a new scheme trying to install new stuff, it would be brutal, absolutely. And kind of to add on to Da'Yon's point, say best case scenario for Houston, they come and they're 2-0 after those first 2 games. There's going to be a lot more buzz for week 3 when they're hosting. I know they're going to be hosting Kansas, but even then, that's going to be a Big 12 opponent you're going to see in the future, and there'll be a lot more excitement. And that I think it might end up working perfectly. Now it depends on what happens on Saturday in Texas Tech.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how y'all's scheduling changes now that you're part of the Big 12, because y'all have had to kind of get a big opponent on the schedule, not being a part of the Power 5. And like, if you want to make a run at one of those New Year's Six Bowls, like you kind of got to have one of those really good teams to start your season off with. So now that you're going to be in the Big 12 going into next year, where you already are guaranteed to play several really, really good teams, I'd be curious to see how y'all scheduling changes down the road. And if y'all do kind of try to take, hey, let's start the season off with a lesser opponent and then get that hard game in or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, that's something that Kelvin Sampson on the men's basketball side has talked about where, obviously, of course, when it comes to non-conference schedule in basketball, they're always trying to, if it's not scheduling tough opponents, it's being able to be in a multi-team event where you have those high-quality opponents. Right. Kelvin's talked about how once they join the Big 12, every conference game is going to be a Q1 game. So I'm sure it's going to be interesting to see how that transition is in football, and especially with football where they have to plan ahead so far ahead. Yeah. So it'll certainly be interesting, but excitement at the same time. So I'll kind of leave you guys with this question. And we've kind of touched on it. Obviously, of course, we know that Houston's going to make the jump to the Big 12 next season. I would say probably in regards to opponents in the Big 12 that they're going to see, I would say that Houston and Texas Tech are probably the 2 schools that are much more familiar. So I'm curious from a Texas Tech perspective, do you guys see Houston as a rival, or what is that dynamic like heading into this upcoming game?
I see it as a potential rival, but for me right now, it's like y'all got to beat us. Kind of to prove you're on that same level, because we haven't been a good football program over the last decade, and yet we've won 4 straight matchups against you guys. And so it's something that I definitely can see being a really fun Big 12 rivalry. Like, I kind of want a rivalry with all the Texas teams in the Big 12, with TCU, Baylor, you guys. And so I think there's definitely a lot of potential to it. I think we have the most familiarity with each other, and so I think that can be really good. But at the same time, I do think y'all got to start beating us before it gets kind of on that level of a rivalry.
Yep. Yeah, I think it, even without the on the field action, it kind of already is. Like Da'Yon's already hyping it up, saying we're rivals. I think it's just the in-state thing, and a lot of familiar faces around with Dana Holgerson and transfers, and your basketball program being very good the last handful of years. And the other thing from the Texas Tech side, we get a lot of students and alumni from the Houston area. And so you'll get a lot of Houston games that you're going to have a lot of Texas Tech fans at. You can ask TCU about this problem, and because we do the same thing to them with an alumni base that's big in the Fort Worth area. And so you'll see that kind of start to filter in down there with those your home games, and it's going to kind of start maybe light a fire under your fan base a little bit. It's done it to TCU, I'll say that.
No, yeah, for sure. I mean, to add on to the point, I think, Houston TDCU Stadium holds about 40,000 people. I think they can extend it to hold more, but I think last time they sold over 30,000 people was 2018. So it's been a while. So, and a lot of it has to do just with where the program was 2019, 2020 with the COVID year. But yeah, that's certainly going to be a point of emphasis, especially this season. If they can't get that corrected, once they get into the Big 12 and they have to, it's been reported. There's a rumor out there. I guess it was confirmed by the UH athletic director Chris Pesman that the first Big 12 game that they're going to play is going to be hosted at TDCU Stadium. But like you guys mentioned, all the different Texas opponents from TCU, Texas Tech, Baylor, if they don't get that corrected, it's going to be a lot of times where it might be 50-50 where, the other fans show up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just don't taunt us on Twitter or something and give us a reason to show up.
Right.
Yeah, or have the head coach accuse you guys of piping noise like Dana did for UTSA, because that certainly lit under fire under the UTSA fans.